So, okay, Hypothesis is the next tool, and I'm going to start my timer this time. So I have my own time limit going. Okay, so Hypothesis is a social annotation tool. Okay, so it does that collaboration, but Hypothesis is all about the annotation. So that this specifically is what this is for. This is not a university supported tool. It is available in either a browser version or an LTI, and some units around campus, not just our campus, other campuses, the system have been piloting with the LTI integration. That costs money. There are other differences between the two versions, but because we don't have a license and it hasn't been integrated, I'm going to be focusing on the browser version for this conversation today. So essentially what Hypothesis does is it allows you to annotate over the top of a live website, and I'll show you what that looks like in a minute, or a PDF, including you can also annotate over the top of library articles and that kind of thing. And so let's see, the annotations can involve a number of different things. You can do text or sticky notes or highlighting, things like that. I'll show you an example. But as you're getting started with the browser version of Hypothesis, on the left you see a screen that's just kind of the main Hypothesis screen, and you can just click the Get Started button, and it's really simple to get started. This is an easy tool to begin to use. The screen on the right that you see, it just kind of gives you the steps to do. It says you sign up so that you have an account. You add Hypothesis to your browser. They suggest the Chrome browser extension, and then you'll see a little Hypothesis icon in the top right of your screen once that's been installed, which I have and I'll demonstrate. And then the third thing you do is you start annotating. So the setup and the start process is super easy for the Hypothesis browser version. Some use cases. Why would you do this? We've done some testing, like I said, and some piloting with Hypothesis and a couple of other social annotation tools. So we've got a lot of ideas cataloged that we'll share in the slides, but a lot of different reasons to do this. One would be simply to facilitate a discussion around an online resource. So you could have individuals annotating, and they can do highlighting, annotating, page notes, and replies. And again, they can annotate different online resources. So to show you what that would look like, the first screen I'll show you here is Voicethread, which is not what I wanted to show you. So here is that initial screen that you would, if you wanted to use this with students, you would send your students to this basic Hypothesis page. They would click Get Started, and they would create an account. I already have an account. So this is my interface within Hypothesis. So you'll see that there are some tools here, my name, I've got annotations already created here down below. There is an ability for me to either do individual annotations kind of for my own work, so I can do some careful reading of things, or I could set up groups. I've got a number of different groups that I have set up in my Hypothesis account, and I'll show you how that group could be used in a second. But what I'm going to click to now is an actual page in Hypothesis with that annotation involved. So to show you what that looks like, you'll notice that right now what you're seeing is just a web page. But if I click this little really small arrow over here on the right, it's going to expand my Hypothesis interface. It expands it right out here. And so you'll see here that if I, on the left-hand side, click on an annotation that someone has made via this highlighted text, on the right, it says I am showing one annotation. You can read the comments that the person wrote who annotated that. And then you'll notice that there are also replies. So the initial person annotated or made their comment, and then Zoe came in and added another comment, and then Judel, and then Marty. I can also hide those replies. So you get a sense for how you can start facilitating this discussion around an online resource. This is can be really useful in any fields, like for careful reading of literature, or if you wanted to do something like this over the top of a math equation or something like that. So essentially that's kind of the interface for that browser version. The second use case that I want to show you, though, ooh, got 16 seconds, is to do a peer review, right? And so this is something that we actually used in our work here with ATSS, but you'll notice that these comments are public. I'm going to instead go to my groups, and these are my private groups. I'm going to go to this group called f.comments, and you'll notice here, I'm just going to finish, even though my timer went off. You'll notice that I've got annotations. Oh, there aren't any annotations on this page. Let me jump back over here. So now in my main hypothesis interface, if I click this private group, all of these annotations come up. And what we were doing is we were creating some feedback on pages in a Canvas site. So if I click on any of these links, what you'll see is that Sarah gave me comments on this Canvas page. And so that was, you know, this is how we were kind of providing peer feedback on an actual work project, but you can see hopefully how this might work for students to submit a PDF into this interface and then have peers come in and do that annotation onto that page. So I'm stopping. If there are questions, let's talk about it.
Well, one question we have in the chat is there hope that Hypothesis will be integrated into Canvas at some point?
There are definitely people who hope that this will happen. I think that there's a process, I know there's a process at the university for integrating tools like this into our Canvas environment. It's the LTI request process. So if you're interested in that, we can share some information about how that gets done. But Hypothesis, you know, has been considered in the past, and the rate limiting factor at this point has been the cost. Because as I said, this browser version is free. The LTI request, the LTI version is not free. It's quite expensive. So that is one of those considerations. So when we're evaluating this, if I wanted to use this with my students, you know, that logistics, that cost and support element would probably be a neutral or a negative. The accessibility, Khalid informed us, is not great. It's a neutral, maybe even a negative. And then the third category was the data privacy, and that's also a neutral. And that's all because we would be using this as a browser supported tool, not centrally supported. Not to say you shouldn't use it. Be aware. Proceed with caution. Other questions? Thank you, Emily, for that comment, using it as a student.
And a reminder that CLA currently offers the license.
Great. Silke, is there an end date for that license, or are you past the pilot and you're actually offering that?
I can't tell you. I mean, people have to reach out to CLA. I think this semester we still could use it, and yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if A will continue that offer.
Sure. Oh.
So we've got a moment of silence.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention the slide deck does include some pros and cons to each of these tools. We don't have time to get into every little detail, so just know that in the slide deck, you'll see some of these pros and cons.